Today's coffee experiment is a pretty important one. You might recognize this guy here from many infomercials, late night, lonely on your couch, the Magic Bullet. And it isn't quite a Krupp's blade grinder that you may be accustomed to seeing, but the blade is virtually the same. So I'm going to use this as my blade grinder and compare it to my Burr Grinder, this hand grinder here. I'm going to try and get as equal of a grind as I can. So in other words, in terms of fineness, I'm going to make sure that each of them looks roughly the same. So I'm just going to get to grinding with each of them, separate them out, and then brew a cup, or I should say 2 cups through the brazen, and see which one tastes better. I'm going to do a blind taste test too for this because I know that I have a bias towards Burr Grinders. I've been told all along that they're better, but we're here to find out if that's really true. Is there a discernible difference between a blade grinder and a Burr Grinder? So just before I grind, I'm just going to go over a few of the reasons that people say why blade grinders aren't as good. One of them being the inconsistent particle sizes you'll see from your ground coffee. So you'll have some pieces of coffee that are larger, some particles that are larger, and some that are smaller, and they just extract in completely different ways. So a finer grind will kind of bring out more flavors, whereas a coarser grind will not. So when you have a mix of that can bring out some unpleasantries. And the Burr Grinder is said to be much more consistent. You're not going to have the exact same particle size across all your coffee, but it will be consistent enough that you won't get any really undesirable things in it. People also say that the motor of a blade grinder will heat up and kind of give your coffee an extra roast, which it doesn't need. They describe it as burning the coffee, and a slower Burr Grinder doesn't tend to do that apparently. Keeps the coffee cool and doesn't cause too much friction that will heat up your ground coffee. So that's another argument. So anyway, I'm not going to ramble on anymore about this, but let's just see which one outperforms. Okay, I'm just going to show you the different grinds. I tried as best as I could to make them similar. This is the Hario Burr Grinder. So you can see this was very finely ground. This is almost at an espresso level. But that's okay for drip coffee. Just barely made the cut, I'd say. This is the Magic Bullet blade grinder. You noticed I got some weird clumps in there. I don't know if you can see. They were like from the edge of the bullet itself, but pretty close. I mean, this was pretty much as fine as I could get it with the blade grinder, and I think just based off of looking at them side by side, and I realize this lighting is terrible, but side by side, I think the Burr Grinder looks slightly finer, but I think it's close enough, especially if that was as good as I could get with the blade grinder. So I'm just going to go ahead and brew, and we'll see which one's better. I'm going to probably have to just close my eyes doing this blind taste test after shuffling around the cups. Okay, both cups of coffee have just finished. This is the blade grinder, or the Magic Bullet, and this is the Burr. And instantly you can tell that the Burr has a lighter color, or maybe you can't because of, once again, the terrible lighting in this video. But all the more reason for me to do a blind taste test here, even though they're in the same little heart cups, and these, by the way, are the only cups I own that are identical, so I have to drink from them. But I put a blue X on the bottom of the Burr Grinder cup. So I'm just going to close my eyes, rotate these around, do the taste test, and I'll tell you which one I like better. Okay, so this guy on the left was the winner, and I'm almost positive, yep, it's the Burr. I definitely picked up a difference. You guys can choose to trust me or not. I shuffled these around, closed my eyes, continued to close my eyes as I took the sips. I tried the Burr one first and didn't pick up on anything I didn't like. There was no bitterness. It tasted exactly how I expected it to taste based on the other cups I've had throughout the week of this particular bean. This is the Ambrosia blend by Phil's. However, the Blade cup instantly hit me with bitterness on the first sip, and I picked up on a burnt aftertaste. Now, I wouldn't say it was unbearable. I'm definitely accustomed to that taste, but I was really surprised by how much difference I picked up in these two cups. So I would without a doubt continue with my Burr Grinder over there. You know, and maybe it was just the magic bullet that was overdoing it. I'd like to try this same experiment with a Krupp's Blade Grinder, because I know that the magic bullet isn't specifically made for coffee. Although I've seen, I think in the infomercials, that they do grind coffee with it. It's perfectly capable of doing so, but the Burr Grinder was the winner.